Welcome to the Get Published podcast, sponsored by Brodie Consulting Group. To get more information about our coaching, publishing, executive ghostwriting, and podcast production services, go to getpublishedpodcast.com. Hello, I am Paul Brodie, and thank you for joining us for another episode of the Get Published podcast, where we help authors get published with a proven system that works. And today, we're being joined by Kyle W. Weckerly, author of Arcane Narrative, Book 1. Kyle, welcome to the show.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
Well, we are thrilled to have you. Are you ready to begin?
Oh, yes. Let's do this.
All right. Question number 1. What is the one piece of advice that you would give to a first-time author who is currently writing their book?
For me, I would say done is better than perfect. I have started way too many drafts that have never been finished. And I've self-published a couple books, but those are the only two that I really finished and got done. Maybe a couple more, but then there's hundreds more drafts of ideas that sounded great, but then halfway through I'm like, well, I need to work on this, and I just never came back to it. So it's just better to finish what's there, and then you can fix it later, and that's what worked with the books that I did complete.
Yeah, two of the things I always teach my clients is, one, don't be afraid to take the plunge, but two, and this might sound familiar, done is better than perfect. Just get it done.
Yes, that's right. That's right. Or it's like, building a bridge. There's two ends to it, the beginning and the end, and you've got to connect them both before you can fix the middle.
Yep.
If you stop to fix the middle in the middle of building a bridge, it's never going to finish, and you're going to fall off and all this other horrible stuff.
Absolutely. Well, what do you feel is the hardest part about getting published?
It's really picking the publishing path that's right for you. For me, I wanted to go traditional, and I had a couple agents who looked interested, and they read over it. They gave me some feedback. I did a rewrite and sent it back to them, and it never went beyond that. So that's what let me know that I was on to something, that I had, at least something that somebody wanted to read and then, go on and publish. But, beyond that, I wasn't sure of what the right next step to do. And then I went into self-publishing, and there's just so much information out there that it's overwhelming, and you get, analysis paralysis. So it's really about finding what's best for you, and there are book coaches and publishing coaches out there who can help you figure that out. And so there's a lot of great resources. It's just knowing who to talk to, who can kind of understand your situation, what's best for you, what you're capable of doing, and then helping you decide on a path that really works for you and what you're able to handle at the time. And
which route did you end up going?
I did end up going self-publishing. I went through Amazon, Kindle Direct Publishing, and did it that way. I don't have a print book. I just did an ebook format, and that really works for me at the time. Of course, when I did self-publish, I just had a baby, and so that was really all the bandwidth I had time for. And ever since having kids, I just that's the excuse. I know it's an excuse. I still have the time to really go back and get a print version put together and wrapped up, and I have all these other clients as well coming to me, and so it's just one of those things I've backburnered. But for me, self-publishing seems to be the best way to go.
Well, let's talk about marketing. So please share a marketing strategy that you have used in your book launch that has worked well.
Giving away free copies, and that sounds counterintuitive, but you want to give them away to, for close friends and family, for one, because it's, cred to them that you know what you're doing, and that you can finish this idea that you set out to do, even if they think, oh, well, that's a cute little hobby you have. It's like, no, this is a legit thing I'm doing. But then also you pitch that book to podcasts that you want to get on, news publications, and you're able to use that as a way to get your foot in the door, and that helps with marketing. So yes, you are losing a little money on the book because you're technically giving it away for free, but you're gaining so much more in terms of exposure, marketing, getting your name out there and getting people to know you. And then the return on that will be, of course, more book sales, speaking engagements, joint ventures or partnerships that you can establish on down the line because of the marketing that you did to begin with. So I know it's hard, and for me it was really hard to learn this as well, but to give away a few free at the beginning because you're like, well, I need to start making money on this book right away. And it's like, well, you've got to instead of wait on the making money part and focus on getting it out there so that more people are aware of it and will begin to buy it in greater numbers.
Absolutely. Well, speaking of books, I'd like to know what is your favorite book and what was the number one thing that you learned from it?
My favorite book is Moneyball, The Art of Winning an Unfair Game by Michael Lewis.
Oh, yeah.
I've read it and reread it so many times. Yeah, and I know it's a popular one as well, but what really struck out to me, and he says this early in the book too, is that baseball teams, somebody explained it, that every year they draft like 50 players, 50 some odd amateur players. If 2 of those make it to the major leagues, that's considered a good year for them for the draft. And he said in any other business, if this was your marker or your measuring stick for a successful year, you would not make it. Your company would go under so fast. And yet this is a viable business strategy in baseball. Millions of dollars are being paid into these players who may never pan out. And like millions of dollars are going down the drain. And right now they're really going down the drain because we have no season happening. But, you know, he's pointing out if there's such a gross misappropriation of funds or a gross what's the word I'm looking for? A gross misinterpretation of player value, what does that say about other industries and how they perceive your value and what you can do? And so that really, opened my eyes that, hey, I do have some value, even if an HR person says, well, we just don't think you're the right fit for this company. Well, it's like, well, then that's your loss. Whatever money you could have been making by hiring me, that's now out the window.
I love that you mentioned that because I'm actually looking at the book right now. So in my office, I have my library, and Moneyball is between 2 books. One is from Live from New York, which is a story about Saturday Night Live, and the other one is about Brian Clough, the autobiography. He was a famous manager in England from Nottingham Forest, their club, and basically talking about his journey. So it's right between 2 of my favorite books, right nestled there. And I love Moneyball, loved the book. The movie was good, but as always, the book was even better.
Oh, yes. And the audio version, Scott Brick read it. And, Michael Lewis has a very dry kind of haughty attitude about the whole thing. So when Scott Brick reads it, it has so much more richness to the narrative. And I just love how he's interpreting the characters and the story. And so that's part of why I listened to it again and again, because Scott Brick made it so much more of an experience for me when I listened to the book.
Well, in that one book, think about it. Every sports league, every league in the world has some variation now of an analytics/data department. And it all started with Moneyball.
Definitely. Yeah, and that's what's amazing. And so it's like, what other industries can be changed just by some quote-unquote nerd deciding, hey, let's actually think about how we're assessing our players or our employees and how we build a team.
Absolutely. And for a final question, what is your favorite quote and why?
William Nicholson, he was a screenwriter for a movie with C.S. Lewis. So this quote has been attributed to C.S. Lewis, but it really was William Nicholson who wrote it. But he wrote, "We read to know we're not alone." And for me, what that means to me is that, I grew up socially awkward. I felt that, nobody understood me. Your usual teen angst. I was not a unique kid by any stretch of the imagination. I was just very shy and awkward and anxious about reaching out to people and making friends. And, and as you move on in life and you encounter trials like finding a job, going to college, deciding if you want to marry this person or not, it kind of can make you feel lonely and isolated because you don't know that other people have gone through that. And reading books has opened my eyes to just, all of the human experience, Hidden Figures, for one example, that, here are these women who have this mathematical talent, and they are literally writing the stuff that will get us to the moon and back, save lives, make aircraft and spaceships more efficient, and yet nobody was taking them seriously because of how they looked, their ethnic background, and and the time period and all that went into that. And so reading that book, made me feel less alone. If these women can do it, if they can literally change the world and not get credit for it, but also B, have such a profound impact on my life that I didn't realize until I was well into my 30s, I want to say. Then, what can I do? What is the ability within me to do that? And reading those books, makes me feel less alone or isolated when I come up against an obstacle or when something's not going my way.
Excellent. Well, Kyle, I want to thank you for being a guest on this show. What is the best way for people to find you online?
The best way is my website, weckerlywriter.com, and that's WECKERLYWRITER.com. Or you can also find me on LinkedIn. I'm very heavy into that right now, posting a lot of content and connecting with a lot of people. So you can just search Kyle Weckerly or Kyle Weckerly Ghostwriter, and that's how you can find me there as well.
Well, Kyle, thank you once again for being on the show, and I wish you all the best in your author journey ahead.
Oh, awesome. Thank you for having me. This has been great.
Thanks again for joining us today. To learn more about how to get your book published with a proven system that works, grab a free copy of my book at getpublishedpodcast.com.